So this video is not music related at all, but I feel like I need to make it because I've seen the movie twice. Hey guys, what's up? I am Connor, aka the Music Fanatic here, coming to you guys with something that I thought I wouldn't do on this channel. I'm going to review a movie. So the movie in question that I'm going to be reviewing is the 7th installment of my favorite movie franchise of all time, Star Wars. It's right here, this is my prized possession. Favorite movie out of all of these is The Empire Strikes Back, and it's also my favorite movie of all time. But today I'm going to be talking about the 7th movie in this franchise called Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a massive science fiction nerd, and I'm a person who just loves all this stuff, like Star Wars. I kind of like Star Trek, but I grew up on Star Wars, and I even met my best friend because of Star Wars. And I'll explain that story over on my other channel, Connor Landon Show. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, by the way. My spoiler review is going to be with the guy over on the Connor Landon Show. His name is Landon, if you haven't figured that out by now. And that's going to be complete spoilers and stuff, and hopefully that will come out sometime next week. I know that the film came out last week on Friday, but you can review a movie anytime, anywhere. Now, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It's my favorite movie franchise of all time, and ever since this movie came out, I've been rewatching the originals. I've been reading up facts about every single Star Wars movie ever made, and I've just gone back to my kiddish ways of being a humongous Star Wars nerd. So, did this movie live up to the originals? And did this movie take away from the bubonic plague known as the prequels? And here's my basic synopsis on every single Star Wars movie, by the way. Episode 4 is an amazing movie. A New Hope is I'm just going to call it Star Wars, is an amazing movie, one of the greatest movies in all of American cinema history, and a movie that pretty much just changed, like, the whole ways of science fiction and all that stuff, and it's just an incredible movie. Empire Strikes Back is not only the best Star Wars movie, one of the best movies ever made in history, and in my opinion, the greatest movie of all time, and my favorite movie of all time, Return of the Jedi. Even though it has its flaws and all that stuff, I can still say the movie is still amazing and still awesome and still one of the best movies ever made. Episode 1 is the most disappointing movie of all time. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is my least favorite of the entire saga, and I swear to God, you could fall asleep during that movie, wake up at the end and miss nothing. Then Episode 3 was meh. So, with all that said, what do I think of The Force Awakens, Episode 7? Well, I can safely say I have a new third favorite Star Wars movie of all time. And that's A New Hope, because Episode 7 is now my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Holy honey bunches of votes. This movie is absolutely incredible. It captures everything that the original movies stood for and all the things that the original movies had. It has a little bit of twists. Well, it pretty much did everything that the prequels should have done right. And this movie does that amazingly. Every single person who acts in this movie is absolutely incredible in their own way. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is absolutely incredible as a villain. He is probably one of my new favorite villains of all time, with a little bit of a human element behind him. I'll talk about that in my spoiler review. That's not a spoiler. Daisy Ridley as Rey was absolutely incredible also. Almost everyone who acted in this movie was absolutely incredible. And I will say this is just hinting at my spoiler review. I thought Finn was going to be my favorite person from this movie. Turns out, it was Rey. And speaking of Finn, John Boyega, the guy who plays him, does a great job. You know, I'm just going to say this right now. He's a British actor, and he has like a British accent when he talks and stuff, and he'd have to do an American accent for this movie. But in a way, some of the times when he talks, this is not nitpicking, this is just pointing out, sometimes his English accent kind of goes through his American accent. Also, Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. Poe Dameron is awesome. I'm just going to say that right now. I'll explain more about him in my spoiler review, but Poe Dameron is just awesome. He is probably up there with one of my new favorite Star Wars characters of all time. And, you know, I will say this, I'm not going to say who and I'm not going to say what happens and stuff, but there's something that happened in this movie that I think is absolutely awesome. In the prequel movies, they tried to establish a friendship between two people, that was Anakin and Obi-Wan, and they couldn't really explain how they were friends in like 6 hours worth of movies. But this movie, they established two characters in this movie becoming friends and almost becoming like best friends in 4 minutes. That's awesome. And I don't even care if this is a spoiler, I don't even care what this is, but I'll talk about it also a lot more in my other video about this. But Gwendolyn, sorry, I had to look it up, sorry. Gwendolyn Christie, who also, for all of you Game of Thrones fans out there, plays Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm not a fan of Game of Thrones. Not saying I don't like it, just saying I've never watched it before. Who plays Captain Phasma in the movie. I would have liked her better in the movie if she did anything. Anything at all. She does nothing. At all. And, of course, if I'm going to talk about this movie, I have to talk about the people who played the original characters from the original Star Wars movies, and I am extremely happy to say that they were completely not misused. Harrison Ford as Han Solo, it didn't just seem like, oh, Harrison Ford's in this movie and he plays a guy that looks exactly like Han Solo. Oh, he is Han Solo. No, he played Han Solo. He played a Han Solo that has been through all the stuff and everything, and he's seen all this shit and everything, and he is like pretty much the older version of a Han Solo. And Peter Mayhew, the guy who played Chewbacca, well, there's not really much to say about how he acts as Chewbacca, because he could literally just stand there the whole time and just have the roaring sound effect and all that stuff and shoot people, and we think he's awesome anyways. But you know, the dude is 7'2" and had to get surgery on his legs in order to play Chewbacca again, because the dude is 7'2". Then Anthony Daniels, the guy who played C-3PO, he's also in this movie, and he does a great job playing C-3PO for the scenes that he's in. But yeah, all the original actors are there. Kenny Baker, the guy who plays R2-D2, he's also, well, I don't really know how the people who play the robots in this movie, I mean, Anthony Daniels, he's great and everything because, you know, he has speaking lines and everything, but all R2-D2 does is just roll around and beep and boop and all the time and everything. Oh yeah, by the way, another thing I forgot to say, I don't care how I sound while saying this, B-88 is fucking adorable. Like the little soccer ball droid and everything, he was just adorable. I'll just say it right now. They make replicas of him, they can control with your iPhone, and I am definitely going to get one. Then Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker. Spoiler review. And I will say there is two characters in this movie that are like the absolute most CGI characters in this movie that I thought I was absolutely going to hate, but I didn't mind him as much as I thought I didn't hate him as much as I thought I would. I kind of just thought, oh, well, they're there. And that's Supreme Leader Snoke. Let's all be honest. If you've seen the movie, you're going to agree with me. He was kind of just there. And Maz Kanata, the person who was in the Maz Kanata, like the Cantina Band type place and all that stuff, like the bar and everything, I'll just admit this. I like her character, but just a tiny little bit too cartoonish in a way. And one of my biggest nitpicks that I'm going to say about this movie, I'll just get it out of the way right now. The third installment of the Death Star in this movie, which is called Starkiller Base. By the way, that was Luke Skywalker's original last name in the original trilogy. It wasn't going to be Luke Skywalker, it was going to be Luke Starkiller. So, I bet a little bit of homage to George Lucas. They named the base, or pretty much the third Death Star in the movie, the Starkiller Base. And I'll explain this more in my spoiler review, but take a wild guess what happens to it. And honestly, another thing from this movie that's not nitpicking, but or taking away, I'm just going to point this out. There's a few scenes in this movie where I almost had to be reminded that I'm watching a Star Wars movie, because it was made by J.J. Abrams, who also directed Mission Impossible 3, and also produced and directed and was the writer for the new Star Trek movies. You can kind of see that J.J. Abrams shines through in this movie, especially with the ever so popular J.J. Abrams lens flare, which he puts in every single one of his movies. But there's a specific scene in this movie that okay, I'll just say this. It's when Han Solo and Chewbacca first show up in this movie. There's a scene where a specific character says a line in the movie that I swear to God, you could walk into this movie never watching not knowing what the movie is, even being a person who likes Star Wars and all that stuff, and you could walk in at the last part of this, and the line of dialogue that the character speaks in there, you would actually be like, oh shit, this is a Star Wars movie. But yeah, that's not a complaint, I'm just saying J.J. Abrams did that, and I don't know if it's really a bad thing, a good thing, or a bad thing. I'm pretty sure it's still a good thing, but yeah. The cinematography was great in this movie. The acting was great in this movie. I took pretty much every single character like serious in this movie, and above all, this movie is fucking hilarious at some parts. So much so that there is one complaint that I'm gonna say, and it's not even about the movie. It's about the film experience that I had during this movie, the theater experience that I had. When I was sitting there watching the movie, everyone was doing their part, and everyone was doing stuff that I thought they would, and all that stuff. There is one thing that I'll point out: when Princess Leia showed up in this movie, C-3PO got a better response than she did when she showed up, which I thought was weird. Also, the opening credits of the movie, when it says "a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," and then the main theme, which is composed by John Williams, showed up. I literally heard this. The Lucasfilms thing showed up, and everyone was just like, whoa, and stuff. And then a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away showed up, and literally I heard this. Shh, shh, wait for it. From like 3 rows. And then finally it blasted on, and like people almost stood up cheering when that part showed up. I'll even admit, I did. As I just stated, I thought this movie in parts was absolutely hilarious and all that stuff, and that actually adds to a complaint that I'm going to say right now. You know, as I just stated, everyone did their part in the movie and all that stuff, but one guy did his part a little too well, because from like right behind me, like 2 rows behind me, there was a guy who, I swear to God, every single time that a funny part happened in this movie, there was a goddamn hyena sitting 2 rows behind me. Like, I missed the first time seeing this movie, because I've seen this movie twice. The first time seeing this movie, I missed like 3 lines of dialogue, because this motherfucker 2 rows behind me wouldn't shut the hell up like laughing. I literally had to turn around and go, shh. And I don't like doing that in movies, okay? Don't ruin my theater experience. Like, I had to do that when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, because every 5 minutes, or every like few minutes in a movie, these people sitting like a row behind me had to point out like, what's his face? Star-Lord, Chris Pratt's character in that movie. He took his helmet off and stuff, or put his helmet on, and then the old lady behind me, I need one of those. And like every time something happened, they had to laugh hysterically. They had to freak out that one of their favorite characters was on there. And the final after-credits scene, when Howard the Duck came out, they got excited, like, oh my God, Howard the Duck! I'm like, he fucking sucks. Why are you cheering for him? Like, yeah, so that's one thing I'm going to say. If I'm in your movie theater, shut the hell up and watch the movie. Only respond when it's appropriate. And this guy didn't do that, and those people didn't do that, and that pissed me off. So now my little rant is done. And one of my favorite parts of the entire movie is stuff that the original trilogy, these movies, proved to do better than the prequels did. Practical effects are better than CGI in some cases. And no movies prove that better than the original trilogy in this movie, because sometimes in this movie, when there's like an alien on screen, or when there's like an explosion on screen, that's a real explosion, and that is a real actual person dressed up in a costume as an alien in the movie, and I love J.J. Abrams for doing that. The cinematography, the acting, the sets, the action scenes, I'll just say this, we all know that there's a lightsaber battle in this movie, and all I'm going to say is that it is the best lightsaber battle I have seen since the lightsaber battle at the end of Return of the Jedi, in Star Wars Episode 6, in Episode 6. But yeah. Wow, I really messed that up when I said it, but yeah, it's the best lightsaber battle I've seen ever since Return of the Jedi, at the very end of the movie and stuff, because the thing that a lot of people like to point out a lot about lightsaber battles, and I definitely agree, is that lightsaber battles are not about flashy special effects, they're not about over choreographed jumps and flips and stuff. Now, while that stuff is cool, I will say these movies have a lot better lightsaber battles, because there's 3 of them in the entire, well, I guess you could count 4, but there's 3 of them in the entire in all 3 of the movies, and all 3 of them are great in my mind. And anyone who says that the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader in Episode 4, A New Hope, obviously does not get the point of a lightsaber battle. Lightsaber battles are because of emotional moments, and they're driven by emotion and anger and all that stuff. Like, I watch a lightsaber battle to hear lines like, no, I am your father, or maybe if you won't turn to the dark side, your sister will. Well, that's not the line, but it's about moments like that and stuff, and about like when Luke Skywalker throws his lightsaber away and says, no, I'll never turn to the dark side, or when Obi-Wan Kenobi figures out that he needs to sacrifice himself in order to push the emotion onto Luke Skywalker in Episode 4. It's because of moments like that, not because like Episode 1, 2, and 3 where they see like the bad guy. It's like, oh, there is a bad guy. I need to lightsaber battle him now. I need to over-choreograph lightsaber battle him now because that is required of us. That's what I get from the episodes 1, 2, and 3. I just get, this is going to be a cool battle, so I need to look cool while bringing out my lightsaber and face this bad guy. They completely missed the point behind a lightsaber battle. Yeah, in the new movie, it's one of the best lightsaber battles I have seen in a very, very long time, and J.J. Abrams made me very happy with that. This movie, at the end of the movie, has a pretty good cliffhanger. That's all I'm going to say about it. But it leaves me just hanging there like, oh yeah, I completely love this movie. I can't wait for the next one, which comes out in a year and a half, by the way. It comes out in May of 2017, but Rogue One comes out in less than a year, so we have that to hold us off until Episode 8. I think I'm going to end this video now and leave this video here by saying that this movie was absolutely incredible. It's easily my favorite movie of 2015, and easily probably my second or third favorite Star Wars movie of all time. It is up there with Empire, A New Hope, and Return of the Jedi as being one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. This movie gets my official stamp of approval and gets my official rating of a 9.5 out of 10. There's minimal flaws and some noticeable flaws, but that's why we love Star Wars, because you know, when it has flaws, it at least admits it has flaws. And this movie doesn't have the flaws that the prequels has, which holds back the movie so much to where you forget that it's a Star Wars movie in some parts. But that's all I'm going to say. The movie was fantastic. 9.5 out of 10. If I have to go like stars rating wise and like out of 5, I would give it a perfect 5 out of 5. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching this video. Like this video if you liked it. In the comment section below, since I'm a reviewer of music, leave me albums of music that I should listen to or review and stuff. And if you haven't seen this movie, please go see it, and also talk about what your favorite Star Wars movie and what your favorite Star Wars movie moment and all that stuff is. So that's pretty much it. 3, 2, 1. I'm done. Goodbye and subscribe.